Interesting interview on this edition of Shelby's People. Just a few days away from Valentine's Day. As a matter of fact, Sweetheart Day. We'll be talking about some sweethearts during the course of today's program. As a matter of fact, on our first spotlight today, as we visit with the employees, tell you a little bit more about the employees of the Mutual. On our first spotlight today, we're spotlighting high school sweethearts who are still sweethearts many years later. Mrs. Ruth Eileen Irvin is our first Shelby Mutual employee today, and she and her husband Ed are native Shelbyans who fell in love while attending Shelby High School together. They have enjoyed the company of young people all through their married life, and they continue to be avid football fans of Shelby Senior High School even now, even though their son is out of high school. Ruth Irvin said that they never miss a home or away game. The Irvin son, Terry, is married. He lives in Richwood, Ohio, with his wife, Judy, and their daughter, Stephanie, an 8th grader. And Terry, by the way, is a pharmacist and is manager of the Revco drugstore in Bucyrus. When Ruth started at the Mutual 24 years ago, she was a policy writer for burglary and then for liability. Until 1975, she was an underwriter. And then when the Research and Planning Division was developed, Ruth was asked to join that department as a research analyst. In a recent interview, Mrs. Irvin explained that her present position involves designing all of the policies and researching the laws concerning cancellations. She also researches the insurance market to find the companies best suited for the Mutual's own insurance and the insurance on the company's directors. Ruth's husband, Edwin, is the distribution clerk at Pioneer Joint Vocational School in Shelby. In other words, he orders all materials and books used by all of the departments at Pioneer Joint Vocational School. Every weekend, from May through October, until October, we should say, finds the Irvins in their mobile home at Cask Villa on Lake Erie. Ruth said that they've been swimming and fishing there for about 20 years now, thoroughly enjoying that location. She also reported that she and Ed love to travel in general. A trip to Hawaii and a cruise to the Caribbean are two favorite vacations the Irvins have had. Just recently, the Irvins took a trip by car across the country to visit Ruth's sister in California. Along the way, Ruth said that they really enjoyed visiting Las Vegas. Other activities that Ruth Irvin enjoys include membership in RISPA Chapter number 153, Order of the Eastern Star, and serving as a Red Cross Gray Lady at Shelby Memorial Hospital every other Tuesday. And she explained to us that her duties at the hospital include delivering flowers, newspapers, and fresh water to the patients, as well as assisting visitors at the information desk. Ed and Ruth Irvin are members of the First United Methodist Church in Shelby. Together, they also like to play golf and watch their granddaughter, Stephanie, play basketball. She was the center for the 8th grade team at Richwood this year. Ruth said that she's sure they'll have several more years of enjoying Stephanie on the court. And when asked what she was looking forward to the most, besides enjoying her family, Ruth Irvin said that good health is a top priority because she and Ed are really looking forward to a terrific retirement together as sweethearts after all these years. Ruth Irvin, one of the people at the Shelby Mutual. You're listening to Shelby's People, a weekly half-hour program each Saturday morning at 11:30, made possible by the Shelby Mutual Insurance Company in Shelby, Ohio. As we continue today's journey on Shelby's People, there is a well-known, popular, and long-term Shelby resident who has announced recently his planned retirement. We have to wonder, however, if he's really going to slow down or perhaps become even busier. Rocky Black has more on this edition of Shelby's People.
Thank you, Dave. You might see him riding around town on a motorcycle. A few years ago, you could have seen him dropping from an airplane in a skydiver's outfit, and there was even a time when he actually flew airplanes. He's not a stuntman, he's not a daredevil, he's a minister, albeit an atypical one, and certainly a minister with some unique hobbies. And through our interview today on Shelby's People, hopefully you'll see the uniqueness of the man behind these hobbies and behind his clerical collar. The Reverend James L. Lumadou officially announced this week he would retire after nearly 20 years in the pulpit at the First Lutheran Church in Shelby, one of Ohio's largest Lutheran congregations. Reverend Lumadou has pastored the Shelby fold since December 1st of 1963 and will retire effective April 10th. His last sermon will be on Easter Sunday. Reverend Lumadou has pastored 4 congregations since his graduation from Ashland Theological Seminary. Before coming to Shelby nearly 20 years ago, he led congregations in Lucas, Elyria, Somerset, Somerset, Pennsylvania. Prior to his first assignment, he studied at Wittenberg University, Oberlin Graduate School of Theology, and then Ashland Seminary. Reverend Lumadou says his career in the ministry was actually somewhat of a predetermined choice.
I discovered after I came here to Shelby, I'd been in the ministry a number of years by that time. My parents told me that before I was ever born, in their nighttime prayers, they had made a pledge to the Lord that their child would be a servant of the Lord. And I think they recognize I'm a tad bit stubborn, so they never told me. It was after I was married and was in the ministry for, by that time, it must have been 25 years. So when you said, how did I happen to get into it? I think I'm in it because of a pledge that my parents made 58 years ago.
Always an abstract thinker, Reverend Lumadou says he would not change his career if he had it all to do over again, although the job hasn't always been a bed of roses. He says he's changed his style over the years as he's learned and grown as a minister through the lumps and bumps that come with the turf.
It has been fulfilling, and yes, I would do it again. Now, I don't suggest by that it was always sunshine and roses. There were times when it felt very heavy. The thing that I found out about myself very early in the ministry was that I was not able to throw away the pressures. And if you told me you had problems, I would take the problems home with me. Now, you know, some people can shut it out, and they really should, but I couldn't. I always carried those kind of concerns with me through the day and into the night, and that part was not always easy for me.
Reverend Lumadou says he's always tried to emphasize a one-to-one ministry through counseling and talking with his parishioners. He says what he enjoys most is making the gospel personalized, keeping the human touch. And while that relaxed, personable style is sometimes cumbersome for a minister, he says it's something that comes naturally for him, and it's something he's never tried to change.
I learned a lesson in the very opening days of my ministry that I thought was a very important lesson to learn. A number of people wanting to advise me pointed out that I had to reconcile myself to the fact that not everyone's going to like me. And I agreed to that. And then it dawned on me, and this is a part that I'm really pleased that I learned. And then it dawned on me, even if I would pretend to be somebody I wasn't, they wouldn't like him either. So I might as well be whoever I am. And so throughout my ministry, that's I just do what comes naturally, as you phrased it.
Reverend Lumadou has, as mentioned, a rather unique set of hobbies. They include motorcycling, electronics, previously airplane flying, and computer science, a subject he concentrated on and studied in his doctoral studies at Ashland College.
I've enjoyed a number of different things, and motorcycling was one of the things that I enjoyed. I think people grasp at that aspect of my recreational life because it seems so inconsistent with what most people have pictured as the staid and dignified clergyman. And I don't think I am totally staid and dignified. What are you laughing about?
Being a minister puts quite a strain on one's family life at times, as anyone associated with a minister's family will know. But Reverend James Lumadou of Shelby has worked hard to maintain a good family life, keeping his wife Sally and children a high priority on his list.
My wife is a teacher here in the Shelby school system. She teaches elementary vocal music at Auburn and Dowd's School. She has been prevailed on to teach some kids piano lessons after school. She really is dedicated to her field and believes that teaching these others is part of her need and part of an opportunity that they have to mature in a richer dimension. I'm proud of her. We have 3 daughters. All of them are married. 1 son, he's married. The girls have we have 7 grandchildren, 3 boys and 4 girls. Very attractive children. They look a lot like me, Rocky. Come on.
Well, as you've found out, the man behind the collar is a man with a keen sense of humor, but he's also a man of sincerity. Reverend Lumadu says he'll preach his last sermon on Easter Sunday of this year and then bow out of the picture, so as he will not be interfering with the new pastor's work at First Lutheran Church in Shelby.
It is expected that I would relinquish the pastoral responsibilities here and allow him to take them up. There are instances where a person retires and doesn't want to let go. And every time someone wants him to have a wedding or a funeral, he'll do those things. But I've talked it over with our bishop and also with the members of our church council, the governing body, and in order to enhance his ministry, which is really what I want to do, it'll be necessary for me to just cut it off. That there'll be no more weddings and no more funerals, and not in any way to intrude in the spiritual leadership of the church. I hope that whoever the new man will be will let me work for him free. I mean, I like to work calling in the rest homes, or maybe on occasion to visit the hospitals for him, or teach a Sunday school class when he wants me to. But that will be pleasing for me, so long as it's comfortable for him.
The senior Lutheran pastor says he'll use his retirement to travel with his wife in their motorhome, visiting primarily with their children who live outside the local area. Reverend James Lumadu sees somewhat of a moral erosion in our country in recent years, but he also sees some positive signs in the spiritual realm. As for his preaching, he says he's tried to stress obedience to the Lord, a quality he finds lacking in the lives of many people today.
We're living in a world where people are so often talking about, I'm going to do my own thing. And there are a lot of people who are very unwilling to acknowledge the Lord as the King of Kings, and with him there is the expectation that we be obedient to him, and that obedience stretches out into a lot of areas that are not normally considered totally religious. I watch the honor roll announcements that come out in the newspaper. I want our kids to be among those who are well-trained, that they can take their place in society and really have an impact on what happens in society. So I share your pastor's concern that they be well-trained and respect intellectual endeavor. But on the other hand, Sunday, when I said a word of praise to those who made the honor roll, I also asked that the congregation give a hand to those who tried as hard as they could and didn't make it, because that's not the end of everything. But I watch out for that kind of thing.
The modern age has brought modern techniques for spreading the gospel, and Pastor Lumadu sees that as a positive development. But he says there are drawbacks to the electronic church today, because people often sit at home on Sundays watching television, which he says is not an acceptable substitute for involvement in the local church. The accomplishments of Pastor Lumadu have been many, including expansion of the building and membership of the First Lutheran Church in Shelby today to make it one of the state's largest Lutheran congregations. But he says his primary accomplishments have come through his one-to-one counseling and pastoring, the part of his career that he has enjoyed the most.
My joy has been in the pastoral ministry, the one-to-one kind of thing. But that also includes preaching for me, because I've thought of the preaching experience as a one-to-one thing. There might be a lot of other people there while we're communicating one-to-one as we're doing it now. But to me, it's always been just you and I together talking over what the faith is. And and to whatever extent I can help enhance that feeling of intimacy as we talk about the faith, then I think I've done what I've wanted to do. That it isn't some stuffy, esoteric thing that you kind of have to gag down and get it over with. I believe in this.
After Easter Sunday, Reverend Lumadu will step down from the pulpit and enter the world of retirement. But the man of humor, the man of personality, who has changed many people's perceptions of the nature of ministers, is not a backward-looking man. He says he's enjoyed his years in Shelby, his congregation here, and he'll continue to reside in the community. But for now, it's a time to move on to a different time of life.
I've enjoyed it here. The thing that I've appreciated, you might have sensed that I'm not just like some people. And because I'm not like it, I think I've been a disappointment to some, that they wish I were a little more this way or a little more that way. But I've had the feeling overall that our congregation's been very generous in opening their hands and say, you're a strange duck, but we're going to let you be who you are. And I think that's a compliment to them, and it certainly has made my life a lot easier. So you say, have I liked it here? Sure. I've been mad at them. They've been mad at me, and but it's been a good experience for us.
With the Reverend James L. Lumadou, I'm Rocky Black for Shelby's People.
Thank you, Rocky. And thank you, and the best of luck, and the best wishes to James L. Lumadou, retiring as pastor of First Lutheran Church in Shelby. Hope to see him and his family around for many years to come. You're listening to Shelby's People on WSWR Radio, Shelby, Willard, Ohio. Shelby's People, a weekly half-hour program made possible by the Shelby Mutual Insurance Company. Our second verbal